particularly like the huge Tom Hanks mic.
Yeah.
I
was
like
the
the
best
priest
big
in the
poster I
Mr.
could
Magoo
find.
poster the best.
Yeah.
Like that had been folded.
So welcome to the Laughing Place Movie Club. We're actually not going to do a movie today because we were going to take this week off because it's President's Day, and we got to pay our respects to Ken Potrock and Jeff Ollie. But Mike really wanted to talk about dinosaurs. So
We're going to talk about the president of animals, dinosaurs. I don't know. That's terrible.
That was like something the TV guy in Mrs. Doubtfire would say when he's got like his classic.
Right.
The T-Rex was the president of dinosaurs.
Yes, Dinosaurs is a sitcom starring puppets that I loved when I was 11 to 14 years old, and I hadn't seen it at all since then. And then I watched it again when it came out on Disney Plus, and I've been watching every episode in a row. I'm like halfway through the series, but it's great.
And I was I loved it as a kid. I remember watching some of it in prime time, but it wasn't something like Simpsons where like my family would sit down and watch it together, weekly. So I remember catching it a lot more in reruns on Disney Channel. And then I had the DVDs when they came out in like 2004 or 2005, but I realized when it came on Disney Plus, I never finished it. I hadn't seen every single episode of Dinosaurs. And so in preparation for this, you gave us an episode you wanted to highlight, but I also watched the series finale for the first time.
Okay, yeah. I also have never seen all the episodes. I'm finding as I'm going through, there were some that I just didn't remember at all, though I had seen a bunch of them when they originally aired. And yeah, I thought, okay, well, what should the Laughing Place crew for sure watch to talk about? And I thought the episode that was a parody of like Disney theme parks, called Meditations on a Theme Park, was a good one to make sure that we all saw. But we should talk about just like our thoughts on the show in general first, I think.
I remember when it was on, I think at one point, at least TJF, if not, and I know it moved around a bunch, but, and so I didn't get to watch TJF a lot just because it's Friday and I got a life. And, but, and it was like, it wasn't like those days when you could you could tape it, I guess, but there was no DVR or anything like that.
I was going to say in like my prime TJF years, we would pop a tape in and press record and then go to like open night at the gymnastics center, which was what all my friends would do. And then we'd talk about what we thought was going to happen on Sabrina the Teenage Witch this week. And then we go home and watch it and then reconvene on Monday and talk about it.
So, but I did watch a bunch of episodes. I watched it when I could. And I remember Disney really pushed it. Like Disney actually would show the music video of "I'm the Baby, Gotta Love Me."
Yeah,
which that rap has always stuck with me. Where
jump on the only rap
run around the house when they tell me not to. I take every chance to make a poop in my pants because I'm the baby and you got to. And I bought all the VHS tapes that they released of like the series, but I definitely didn't see every episode, and I definitely didn't see the series finale, which might make me lose a little.
Yeah, I did not have a life in the early 90s. Friday nights were TGIF. Saturday nights were SNCC. But yeah, I remember, I think Dinosaurs had the 8 p.m. slot, and then it was like, Step by Step, Family Matters, and Perfect Strangers.
Day.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely watched it during that period. I think the humor, a lot of the humor probably flew right over my head in that era, which is great because, rewatching it now, I'm getting a lot of stuff that I did not get as a 11 or 12-year-old. And they dealt with a lot of like mature themes, I would say, on this show.
Yeah, I feel like that's why it's almost hard for me to watch. I mean, I enjoy it, but like I feel like it's kind of more grim looking at it through an adult lens than it was as like a kid watching it with like it's dinosaurs pretending. I mean, it has such a peppy theme song, and it's got such a obviously it has puppets of various sorts, and it's fun. It's dinosaurs, but then you're like when you're watching about like postpartum depression, it's just a little bit more real.
Yeah, and it's what's kind of funny is kind of equal parts Flintstones in reverse, Roseanne, and Simpsons all kind of merged into one.
Right. A lot of honeymooners in there too, with
Mm.
the Ralph Cramden and Art Carney partnership with his best buddy. What was I gonna say? Come back to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, like that. I think that's why you get. I mean, isn't that what the Flintstones was honeymooners, but with
Yeah.
but and that's what it's almost a little jarring too when they cut to the humans because you're like, oh, whoa, okay, like it's I mean, not that is obviously accurate. Not that anything in the show is accurate.
Right.
I do kind of feel like there's a missed Flintstones-esque opportunity where like the Flintstones would have all these devices and there was always sort of a prehistoric explanation to it. Like they did that a little bit, and it was kind of, I mean, probably for many reasons they didn't go that route, but I thought that was, when they did it, I thought that was fun.
Yeah, what I was gonna say is that one of my absolute favorite things about this show is how they almost intentionally try to make it as unhistorically accurate as possible. Like there's absolutely no truth to anything as far as like, because all the dinosaurs are like different species in the same family, and obviously they have the technology and stuff, but they try to like do this thing where they'll like explain where something came from. Like in the episode we watched, they explain where like the concept of vacation came from. Like the dinosaurs invented that and it like continued over into human times, which doesn't make any sense either.
The other thing I think is funny is they have all this technology, right? But then his job is to push over trees. Like they have television, but they don't have bulldozers.
Right.
Well, they also have VHS tapes. Like they were very current in 1992's technology.
And there are humans alive. Cavemen are alive, much like the Flintstones, where they shared the same era, even though they never did in reality. But in this reality, the cavemen are like dogs, basically the equivalent of dogs.
Well, and I like the little gags with the humans, like potentially making a great discovery and then failing. Like you think they've made a wheel, and then he like breaks the center out of it and makes a hula hoop.
And when you see the human scenes, you can almost sense like the joy of the producer of not having to do a shot with like the puppets.
Right.
Like I mean, I think when it lasted 4 sort of short seasons, I think part of the big reason was the cost of the show. And, the puppets, for TJF, which was not known for big budget sitcoms.
Right.
You could sense the money being like just falling off of the show.
They almost had to renew it because once they had paid for the puppets, they might as well use them for 4 years. But I like in season 2, they introduce that like Brachiosaurus friend that comes in through the window, and that's such a cool looking puppet. But so many of the puppets are great. I love the boss character played by Sherman Helmsley.
Sinclair.
Yeah.
That has stuck with me too, because every time I pass like a Sinclair gas station, goes through my head.
I was going to bring that up because I didn't get that was the joke growing up, because we didn't have Sinclair on the East Coast. And it's also the same gas station that inspired Dinoco in the Pixar world. But that's the joke, is that their name is Sinclair, and Sinclair the gas station has the dinosaur.
BP
We had
Richfield.
one Sinclair in my town
Okay.
as a kid, so I definitely spotted that like right away. Same with Dinoco. But I'm also curious, like I have never looked at ratings, but this show was on at a time when dinosaurs, I mean, not that they're ever out of vogue with kids, but they really came in a big way, because you had Jurassic Park and you had Power Rangers, both pushing dinosaur everything. Like I had generic colorful dinosaur bed sheets at the time dinosaurs started. And so I'm curious to know, like, that's probably a question we can't answer, but if the success of Jurassic Park and Power Rangers pushed the popularity of dinosaurs, pushed that needle at all.
From what I understand, is they had high hopes for the show and it didn't meet them. In terms of, this was sort of like Jim Henson's, final goodbye, and this was being worked on during the lawsuit. And I think it never really panned out the way they hoped it did, and then because of that, they moved it around a lot. They aired it in spits and spurts, and just compared to your average like Family Matters sitcom, it just never was gonna, it was. They needed it to kind of survive in syndication and Disney Channel, and it just never really broke through. But so I don't know that they could. I remember reading in the trades when this show was on about like it.
Wait,
not
you were
being,
reading the trades when you were
like 12?
Yes, I was a huge Disney fan. Okay. My dad's a businessman. I was a Disney fan, so I read just Disney as a business. Michael Eisner was my hero. But yeah, everyone, and that's why the series finale, which was like an episode 13 of season 4, like is a series finale, is because they knew they had no shot of continuing on.
You know what I just noticed today? Okay, when they dropped Dinosaurs on Disney Plus, they had that season finale in the middle of season 4, which is when it aired because they had all these extra episodes that had come out in syndication later. But now they've moved it down to the bottom of season 4. Now it's the last episode in season 4 on Disney.
Yeah, they probably put them up in air date order and then had a lot of feedback saying you should make that the last episode. What's actually funny, I haven't checked it recently, but Lizzie McGuire aired out of order. So the episode where Lizzie graduates from middle school, which was meant to be the last episode, aired. And then there were like several other episodes, and the true last episode is a Christmas episode with Steven Tyler. And I'm pretty sure that's the last episode of Lizzie McGuire on there, that they put it in air date order rather than filming order.
Yeah. So what? Before we talk about the Disney theme park episode, I was just curious if any other specific episodes like stick out in your minds.
Well, I mean, gearing up for this, the ones that are freshest in my mind are the first 4 of season 1. But I really love the introduction, the way they bring the family in with almost like a flashback. At first, I thought maybe these flashbacks were like a proof of concept pilot that they hodgepodge together, but definitely not, because it's the story of how the baby gets born. It's so funny how chauvinistic the attitude towards women is in it, with Earl coming home and just being like, there's nothing about your day I want to hear about. Like, you stayed home with the kids. It's, it's very much like the Al and Peggy Bundy relationship, where just, Al came home, put his hand in his pants and didn't want to hear anything. And then Peggy just wanted money. But I mean, that moment is so funny. For me as a kid, Baby was kind of everything. Although my favorite dinosaur was Brachiosaurus from Jurassic Park. So having the big long-necked dinosaur, I would say Jurassic Park and Land Before Time made me love long-necked dinosaurs in particular. But, all of that kind of stuff I always thought was cool. Getting to see some of the props at Disney World too, because some of the items from the show ended up as part of the backlot tour, if I remember correctly. So you could see like how, I think they had the TV for a little while. Okay. And you could see like how big that TV was on the set compared to the scale of those dinosaurs. So like things like that jump out to me more than necessarily single episodes of the show.
The voice cast kind of jumped out to me. Obviously now I appreciate Sherman Hemsley much more than I watched Amen, but now like it made more sense. Sally Struthers as Charlene. You had Jessica Walter.
So I'm a huge Arrested Development fan. And so it was not that long ago that I found out that Jessica Walters was Fran. And like my jaw was just on the floor because in my opinion, she sounds nothing like Jessica Walters as I know her on Arrested Development.
Yeah, I didn't find that out until this rewatch of Dinosaurs. I looked up the cast. I was like, wait, that's Jessica Walter from Archer and Arrested Development. That's crazy. Yeah. I had no idea. And then Kevin Clash is the baby.
Yeah. Well, yeah, once you hear Elmo, you can't unhear Elmo and the baby. But, we saw Bill Beretta on a cruise, and he did a thing talking about how basically he got the job in doing Earl St. Clair because he fit. Like, he was strong enough and he fit. And now he's like, probably like of that second generation of Muppet performers, like the one that is really relied on to do a lot.
Yeah.
And just because he worked at what's that called? Sesame Place with Brian Henson, and was basically interning on Dinosaurs and fit the right size. Like now that whole legacy has happened. It's crazy.
I was watching an interview with the voice actor who plays Earl, whose name escapes me right now, but
The guy from Z.
Right. Yes.
Pankin.
There you go. He was talking about Bill Beretta having to wear the suit, and it was so heavy that he claims that Bill Beretta lost like 1.5 inches in height because his spine got compressed from wearing that suit so long.
Wow.
The episodes that really stuck out in my mind from when I was a kid was the one where Earl. The first one that was the one where Earl is supposed to push his mother-in-law off the cliff as part of this. Yeah, as part of the tradition. And it's like the first one where like Robbie starts questioning like all these traditions that the dinosaur has, which becomes like a running gag almost to the point where they like point it out. Like Robbie, like he's always like questioning their long running traditions, and then by the end of the episode they go back on them. But the other one that like had a major life influence on me was in season 4, is called, I think, The Greatest Story Ever Told, where Earl basically like invents religion and ended up turning me into an atheist as a teenager. So yeah, that one had a big impact on me growing up.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, that's where I first heard that phrase, the greatest story ever told. Like, and then so when people would talk about it from the biblical side, I'd be like, that episode of Dinosaurs? There's a great comic book arc called The Greatest Story Never Told, from DC Comic. And I was like, what? I don't understand why Dinosaurs has made this big an impact. And then I realized it was actually a different thing.
Yeah. So we all watched an episode called Meditations on a Theme Park, where they go to We Say So Land, that has a lot in common with Disney parks. What did you guys think of that one?
I mean, it's funny for a variety of reasons, but what I really like is that it's brand new, and there's only like 2 things open. One of the things that's open is already under refurbishment. So like so many jokes about that. I think it's particularly inspired by Epcot, which, for the writers creating this would have been about 10 years prior.
Mm-hmm.
From the egg at the center of the park,
yes,
to just like the layout of everything that comes off of it. And Epcot was famous for like promising things that never came. Like the opening day map of Epcot had like 4 things that never got built, which I think probably partially inspired that concept. But I mean, there's a lot of Walt Disney isms in there, in particular as long as they make it so much more corporate, as something like, as long as parents are willing and kids have dispensable cash, We Say So Land will never be complete.
Yeah. I like that their mascot is Moolah, the cash cow.
Which is another time I'm watching this and they're like, oh, that guy must be so thrilled he doesn't have to wear like a whole dinosaur getup. Like a normal rubber head kind of thing.
Although at first I thought it looked like maybe your average like off-the-shelf cow costume, and then they just like rigged the mouth to work. But then I realized some of Moolah's spots are dollar signs. Like it's definitely custom.
The bit about Earl trading in all his money for We Say So bucks or whatever reminded me a lot of Itchy
Disney
and Scratchy Land in The Simpsons, which is, I mean,
yeah.
both are parodies of the Disney dollars or whatever. But yeah, they kind of use the same joke on The Simpsons. I'm not sure which would have aired first.
I think I'm gonna guess Simpsons came first, but you're right. They use the same joke where you trade in for the Itchy and Scratchy bucks or the We Say So bucks, and then you find out that most places inside don't take them, which didn't actually happen with Disney dollars. Every place that was a Disney cash register took them, but that joke is funny. Never gets old.
I thought it was funny, kind of, that this was one of those episodes that ABC didn't air. Like it was one of the, and I was like, I wonder if they didn't want that kind of.
So where did that end up airing?
In syndication.
But it just would have been, I guess, depending on what region you lived in, wherever.
Right. Your local channel, like kind of like Star Trek or whatever.
Okay.
probably when it was something that became the UPN or CW at some point.
And eventually probably on Disney Channel.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Although I question if Disney Channel ever played the last episode. I'm wondering if they took that out, because I will say I caught the show a lot on Disney Channel, and I don't remember ever seeing that episode.
I think there were several episodes that they didn't put in their rotation just for, they, even when they edited even like that song, when they would show the music video, they didn't do the full song. But I did notice that this episode was written by Jane Espenson, who has sort of a longer history at Disney. She was a big part of the Once Upon a Time show. And then she also worked on Jessica Jones. And so it was interesting to see her name 20 years before she was on my radar at all. Doing sort of mocking the Disney experience. There's parts that like obviously are mocking Disney, but then there's some parts that are just obviously just like a Six Flags, want to be Disney that propagated at that time.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it also throws curveballs at the concept of a timeshare in there as well. Like almost immediately after vacations are invented, there's a swamp that sets up a timeshare.
Right. And then there's Mr. Amphibian's Wild Rocket Ride, where they just put you in a cardboard box and push you over.
Yeah. But the other thing that's kind of fun too, having seen a couple of episodes from season 1 and then jumped to season 4, is in season 1, it felt like they built, so many sets and they tried to set the action in those places. By season 4, they were using a lot of green screen areas to kind of expand their options, which is interesting.
Yeah. Beyond that, another way they saved money was by having these like extras.
Oh yeah, there's
dinosaurs.
like four bonus dinosaurs that can be redressed as whatever you need.
Yeah. Actually, if you go on Wikipedia, they have a pretty nice breakdown of like what each of those dinosaurs were and the different parts that they played in the show.
Oh wow,
yeah,
that's fun. It's always, but I mean, the news is always obviously like a hand puppet. Like
yes.
It's like each one's like a 2-person, one hand in the face, one doing one arm, one doing another arm, kind of a gig.
Yeah, well, that's like, this made me realize that I'm not talking like kids shows or anything like that, or CGI or stuff like that. The only other Jim Henson shows that I can think of are that, of like storyline are the Dark Crystal reboot that went to Netflix, or prequel that went to Netflix, and Earth to Ned. I'm not saying there's not others out there, but those are the
Farscape, the big one.
You know what? You're right. I never watched it, but you're right.
Love it.
But I think I often read how shows like Dinosaur helped make the Muppet movies more sustainable because they were used to doing things TV style, and I'm not saying cut corners, but they were more economical in their productions than, which I think kind of made up for the sort of effort of having to have Muppets, figure out how to make that all at work.
Right.
But
yeah, I think they did a good job. I mean, obviously, so much of the money went into the sets and the puppets, and I was wondering kind of at the beginning, like, why didn't they shoot this on film? Because it's very obviously shot on video, and the image doesn't hold up quite as well as some of this. If you watch like Seinfeld or Friends, all those sitcoms were shot on film, so you can remaster them and rescan them or whatever. But this is on video; it just doesn't look quite as good. But I'm sure they were saving money that way.
And Disney was doing that even for a lot of their made-for-TV movies. And the 1997 Rodgers and Hammerstein Cinderella that just came to Disney Plus on Friday, like we watched it because I love that version. And you can tell with Dinosaurs too, they've done de-interlacing. Like they've made efforts to make it look better than it did on video. But at the same time, you'll have some moments where you can just see like letters in particular wiggling. And on Cinderella, I didn't notice anything super jarring with Dinosaurs, but like there's a moment where like the trees look like they're like buzzing, and it's just because like there was a wind blowing and they're far enough in the background that the interrolization, whatever that word is, process couldn't match the missing lines well enough.
Yeah, and I think big television productions like both of these, where they knew there was going to be lots of like cuts and special effect shots. I think that was not uncommon. I mean, not saying they did film for plenty, but for the sort of family scene, and I think that's why a lot of stuff that people want is not on Disney Channel, because it just does not hold up.
You mean Disney Plus?
It's just Disney Plus. It's just kind of a shame that it appears so. It's sort of like it's the new color. Like it feels so old now that I feel like generations won't find it as accessible. I mean, granted, I watch plenty of black and white television, but I don't know that kids will watch this knowing. I mean, even with the aspect ratio, they'll know it's old.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Disney Plus for retaining the original aspect ratio in this show, and others that I've seen. Obviously, The Simpsons, there was an issue at the beginning, but the fact that this is available in 4:3 instead of just cropping it and zooming in or whatever, I give them a lot of props for that.
Yeah, they're not super consistent. There's some things that they have cropped. The Little Mermaid animated series is cropped into widescreen. All of the Disney Channel original movies that were in full screen are cropped into like really bad widescreen. Like nobody watched to make sure like text wasn't cut off and stuff. Wow. But yeah, I am glad that this was kept in its original aspect ratio as well. I'm always for that. And as soon as Simpsons was up there, I switched my settings.
And not to get too much on a tangent, but I think we're all kind of wondering what they're doing with the Muppet Show when it comes on Friday, because there's different versions and music rights and all that. Like, will it be at its lengthiest, the UK version? Will it be the US version? Will it be, a version of all the songs cut out?
Do you know what the DVDs were? Were those the UK version?
It was a real mixed bag. Okay. Some of the episodes were longer than originally aired because they were including those extra segments that were shot for the European airings, and then some of them were shorter because they couldn't get rights to certain songs.
Because I seem to remember, or maybe it was just the first season, the DVDs branding themselves as being uncut.
I'm not 100% sure across the board like what they were, but I think I remembered them, some of them being longer and some of them being shorter. But
I know at least one Muppet fan I talked to at a convention once, and I just never looked into it beyond that, had all the Time Life DVDs. Yeah. And like was telling me that like there's differences between some of the episodes that were released on the Disney DVDs and the Time Life sets.
Well, maybe that's what I'm remembering too, because I had bought some of those Time Life DVDs because I wanted like the Star Wars episode, and that was even before they started releasing the seasons on the box sets. But
see, I had some of the Time Life ones. I had like the Julie Andrews one and ones that were important to me. And then when Disney started releasing them, I sold them, thinking like, oh, I'm gonna get it all. And
no, I kept the one with the Mark Hamill episode, so I still have that on DVD. Fortunately,
I was at the D23 Expo when they announced season 4 and showed the Gonzo cover art, and even put up a release date, and then it didn't happen.
Why wouldn't they follow through on that? It's probably not going to happen ever now, right?
No, definitely not. But I just remember being, because they did Kermit, Piggy, Fozzie.
Yeah.
And so I was like, who's going to be next? And then it was Gonzo. And like the cover had like his nose smushed.
Yeah.
Like he got flattened, which was fun.
Yeah. Be very curious Friday morning to turn that on, see what we're dealing with.
Because that's the first thing I'm watching Friday morning on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Well, you got it now, because I mean, if you go on at midnight and see Malcolm in the Middle's trending, you don't want that ruined for you.
I will plug that it's not us, but D23 is doing a Muppet Conversation on Thursday at 4. And you have the new vice president of the Muppet Studios, Lee Slaughter, is going to be on there.
Ooh.
And I bring this up because Lyle Breyer was the head of the Muppet. It was called the Muppet Holding Company at that point. But and she made all these announcements, and then sort of Dick Cook left, and there was a whole reorganization, and the Muppets have bounced back. They've literally worked, I think, for every division of the company except ESPN. Like they started under consumer products, then they went to studios, and they're now fall under Imagineering. So I think,
but his last name is Slaughter.
I presume it's a woman, Lee.
Her last name is
Igh Slaughter, like Sergeant.
You don't want
Slaughter.
that last name in charge of a stable of animals. I mean, pigs in space must be shaking.
So I think I think we were all disappointed a little bit in Muppets Now. I mean, not that it was terrible, but I think we all want, I'd be curious to see what Disney's vision for the Muppets is moving forward. Because, in the end, Dinosaurs represented so much of, it was Disney and Jim Henson coming together in what would have been, part of one big family if Jim Henson hadn't died.
And Michael Jacobs Productions.
Yeah, for Boy Meets World fans.
Which, funnily enough, when you finish the last episode of Dinosaurs, Disney Plus has suggested next thing is Boy Meets World.
But it would have been interesting to see what other projects would have come. I mean, not just Muppets, and Kermit and the Gang, but things like Dinosaurs would have come up if Jim hadn't passed. And Disney, even if Disney got integrated and they created a little studio, kind of like Marvel Studios or Lucasfilm is today, what would have happened to that? I mean, we'll never know, but Dinosaurs represents the one thing that they actually did.
I know it was before Dinosaurs, but did the Jim Henson Hour air on ABC? Or was that?
I believe it aired on NBC.
That was NBC? Okay.
And I believe that failure is what caused him to sell. Is he didn't want to deal with. It was the first time, I think, in a while, NBC, that that he went to television and it didn't work. I mean, he had hardship in film with things like, and I think that's when he realized he didn't want to, he wanted not to deal with, he just wanted to make stuff and not deal with trying to gauge audience reaction and try and make it. He no longer wanted to be Walt Disney. I think he wanted to, work for someone, who could take care of that backside for him.
Cool.
So, I mean, this is unrelated, Mike, but I got to ask, what's up with Who's the Boss this week? Can't wait. What's the
upcoming one?
Yeah.
This week we're doing Star Wars video games. It's a long episode. There's a lot to talk about. Because as you may know, I picked 43 projects that Lucasfilm was involved with from its founding in 1971 through the Disney acquisition in 2012. And most of them are movies. There's some TV in there, and there's some video games and computer games and stuff too. But I wanted to devote an entire episode just to Star Wars video games. I invited my friend Alex Trumbo on. He's a video game enthusiast, and we had a lot to say. So it's like it's nearly 2 hours long, but that's coming out on Wednesday morning.
Supersized.
Yeah.
It's a special edition.
Right.
Remastered.
And tomorrow I'm going to be at Downtown Disney at the Star Wars Trading Post in a mere 14 hours.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Is that tomorrow's the actual opening day?
Is the first Legacy Pass holder preview day.
Ooh. Fancy schmancy.
Yeah, and there's a lot going on tomorrow. We got you. Let me just pull it up. Tomorrow we've got Jeremiah will start the day at Magic Kingdom. Then you're going to be at 9 a.m. Pacific. You're going to be at Downtown Disney at 11. We got Barely Necessities at 4. Disney Trivia Live at 7:30. And then at 8 o'clock Pacific, Alex's Big Sky Recap will go live. So lots of fun coming tomorrow on Laughing Place.
And what's the next movie club?
The next movie club is a new movie coming out this Friday on Disney Plus, Flora and Ulysses. Now, I don't think you can review it yet, but I think I can say that it's amazing and I love it, and it brings me life.
Wow, but I can't review it yet.
No, well, I think you can share it. I even emailed the publicist and said this is my favorite Disney movie since Endgame.
Wow.
It is very fun, especially if you like superhero films or that genre. It has a lot of fun with all those tropes.
and
With a
features
squirrel.
Bobby Moynihan, Danny Pudi.
Oh yeah,
Ben
it
Stewart,
has the
and-
principal voice cast of DuckTales.
Wait, really? That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yep, and they all have they're never all four on screen together, but they all interact a lot.
I will have to check that out.
Yeah.
Being a DuckTales fan. By the way, DuckTales returns on Monday. A week from
And
today.
there are some DuckTales Easter eggs for Key
Oh,
fans.
wow.
So check that out. Thanks so much, Mike. Watched it, Dinosaurs on Disney Plus.
Yeah, it's great. Check it out.
Laughing
There's
Place
65
TV.
episodes.
Laughing Place TV Club, 65 episodes, Disney's magic number for syndication.
Right, exactly.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense then.
almost every Disney Channel show has 65 episodes and then hard stop.
Is that true of DuckTales now too?
It's actually got more. Like that's why it's like, don't worry, we have more. It's like what, 85, I think.
Okay.
So,
hi, Laurie Jean. She was saying hi, and she said that 19th is the opening day of Star Wars Trading Post for everybody.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how this goes tomorrow, because
Me too.
it's like I mean, it because it's the only thing that's happened in the last year. It feels like an opening day of an attraction, even though it's basically like a pop-up shop.
Well, I don't know. I keep saying that I'm excited as a Star Wars fan, but I'm also excited as a Disneyland Resort fan because it's been so long since I've stepped foot in that building, since they shut it down and never built that hotel. But now it's just like it's going to serve this whole other purpose, and I think it's an innovative way to use that space. I hope they did something fun with it, but we'll find out.
Absolutely. Well, follow us along tomorrow, and we will let you know, because Mike's in there bright and early at 10 a.m.
Yes.
And then he'll be live at 11. So thanks so much for joining us, everybody. See you next week with Flora and Ulysses.
I hope they redress the chest beating gorilla as a tauntaun or a womp.